What's up? It's Jan back at it again with another nerdy bookish video. This is gonna be the fastest wrap up ever. Because it is 1 o'clock and I need to be at the post office before 3, but I also still need to get the Poshmark order from my parents' house, and it's a whole thing. But this is the other part of the dealio, okay? I read 24 books in November, so this is gonna be my longest wrap up, but I guess it works out because now it's not gonna be too long and editing Jan's not gonna lose her shit. So yeah, last month I tried to finish a book a day and I lasted like 9 days or whatever, and then I still read a crap ton more books. So we're gonna start. I only have a few that I have physically, so the rest are like library books or ebooks or audiobooks or Xavier's books. Vlog coming soon. I don't know if it's gonna be before this or after this. Whatever. Anyways, let's get on into it. First book is The Whisper Man. Oh, I wrote notes this time so that I'm not just saying, oh, I don't know what this is about, I forgot, you know? So I give this one 5 stars. For my notes, I put gripping, loved how the characters interconnected with each other, couldn't put it down. Children's involvement freaks me out. Okay, I thought it was gonna be like super scary, but it wasn't as scary as I anticipated. But the main little boy in this book sees things, hears things, and that freaks me out no matter what. And like I've talked about it before, I hate when children are giggling and like I just can't do it. That part was creepy, but I thought it was gonna be something completely different, but it was still good. It was super realistic. There's a lot of talk about family, and this earring keeps falling off. Oh my god, this is going so well. You get all these different perspectives. You see them all like interconnect at the end one way or another, and it's great. I like this one a lot better than The Shadows by Alex North, if you were debating on reading one or the other first or whatever. But yeah, yes, would recommend. 5 stars. Next book, The Bride Test. I listened to it on audio and I gave it 2 stars. So it's about this dude named Kai who is diagnosed with autism. He just thinks he's like incapable of love and just feeling things, and he's like 30 something, I think. So his mom was like, you need a wife, stat. So she goes to Vietnam and finds him a wife, and she was like, you're perfect, I'm buying you a ticket to America and you're going to marry my son. And then the son has no idea this was happening, and then they, you know, figure it out. It's a decent storyline. I just didn't care about like the characters' relationship. Like I obviously knew they were gonna end up together. Like, it's a classic contemporary romance, but there were some funny parts. Like there was this wedding scene where they had to hide in the closet, and that part was funny. Like I did laugh, but a lot of the parts, like he, especially in the beginning when he first met her, like every other sentence talked about how he had a hard-on for her, and I was just like, we get it. We get it. She's attractive. You're a boy with hormones, even though you can't feel love and feelings, or you think you can't, you still like get the hormonal feelings. That's fine, but you don't need to remind me on every single page, you know? So that part I wasn't really into, and they were written kind of uncomfortably, like the steamy scenes. I don't know. I mean, I did listen to it on audio. I wasn't a fan of that narrator specifically talking in that seductive tone. I just could not. Just didn't really care if they ended up together. There were like a couple little twists, but you knew, and that's The Bride Test, okay? My camera's dying. This is freaking great. I'm gonna charge it real quick for like 10. Okay, we're back. Let's try this again, shall we? I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. Michelle McNamara's journey to figuring out who the Golden State Killer was. I picked this up because I recently got into true crime because Xavier's mom gave me Mindhunter to read and The Killer Across the Table, and I'm obsessed with John Douglas's writing. That's what I was looking for in this book, and I shouldn't have had that high of expectations because John Douglas's writing is something else, and like his experiences are more on a professional level, and that was his career. This lady, like, while it was interesting for me to read about someone who was so passionate about figuring out who the Golden State Killer was and how sad I was for her that she died before, like just months before they closed the case and figured out who it was, I gave this one 3 stars. I did tab it a lot. I didn't write down a key for this one. I forgot what these were. I know one of them was like descriptive, maybe. One of them was like facts, and one of them was like, whoa, what the hell. It was just so redundant with the Golden State Killer / East Area Rapists qualities, features. Oh, and so it's like part memoir too, and there were some parts that were just like so irrelevant to the case itself. She would talk like 3 pages at a time about her childhood crushes or whatever, and it's just like you could have said that all in maybe 1 paragraph, if that, like a couple sentences, because the the point of it. It did not have to go on for longer than that. Her writing is good, especially towards the end, but then her husband also wrote like a little piece at the end, and his writing is actually better than hers. I didn't enjoy this as much as I thought I would. It was still interesting to read about the case and this specific killer and her search for it and her passion for it, but it wasn't John Douglas. It wasn't Mindhunter, let's be real. Next book I read was The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. This was a book I got from the library. It was written in verse. So it's about this mixed race gay teen who is basically just, you know, figuring out his sexuality, his identity. Even if you don't fit into any of those communities, it still talks a lot about like knowing who you are and like how to get to that place, I guess. And like it has really empowering statements about identity and life in general, figuring out who you are. And I think I just said the same thing like 17 times. So we're gonna look at my notes because, you know, I made those this time. I'm prepared. So it taught a lot about racism, identity, like I said. I learned a lot about drag culture. It talks about pop culture as well. It provides a lot of insight on being young and black and queer. You really get into his head and see things from his perspective. Coming of age story that really hits. It was easy to feel empathy and connected to the character, whether or not you identify with the same things as him. That one was 5 stars. I read it in one sitting. I loved it. Next book, Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. I listened to this on audio. I gave it 4 stars. This one is about this girl who immediately gets hired. First of all, sketchy. You immediately get hired for this one job to like apartment sit, essentially. She just has to live in this apartment in this building, but she can't have anyone over. She can't post anything about the place on social media. She can't not stay overnight. So like everything's all sketchy and her friends are like, what the hell are you doing? Like this does not sound right. And she was like, girl, it's like $2,000 a week. Like I could do this. And then find out why. It's better to go in blind because it did throw me off. But I liked Home Before Dark better by Riley Sager. That's why I didn't give it 5 stars. Maybe if I read it physically it would have been 5 stars. I really liked the twist in this one. Just like how everything came together from like the foreshadowing beforehand and stuff. So it was 1:30. I gotta get moving. Next book I read was City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. I gave this one 3 stars. It's middle grade and I don't like middle grade. I keep trying to get into it. That's the only middle grade that I've fully finished in the past, like since I was in middle school. I do want to read Tunnel of Bones though. It's because it's Victoria Schwab and I want to read all her books after, you know, Miss Addie LaRue back here. Love her. Next year, my goal is to read every V. Schwab book. City of Ghosts is about this girl who can see ghosts because she drowned and then she was like rescued and she now can see ghosts. And she has a best friend named Jacob who's a ghost, and then her parents get to start this ghost hunting TV show. So then they go to Scotland and film an episode there, and then I think Tunnel of Bones is them going to Paris to do that. So that's exciting because I love anything set in France. It was just middle grade. I don't really enjoy middle grade. That one was a quick read. It was fun to read. I loved her best friend Jacob. Next book was The Witch Boy by, don't remember the author's name. I gave this one 5 stars. It was a graphic novel about a boy who wanted to be a witch, but the norm is that the guys are wizards and the girls train to be witches. It's really good social commentary on gender norms and identity and not letting people tell you what you're supposed to be doing because you're this gender versus that gender. One of the characters has 2 dads, so there's that rep in it. Discussions on being yourself, gender norms, acceptance, doing what you love and what you're good at, not what you're supposed to do according to standards or according to what people tell you. So it was a really good, quick graphic novel. I just wanted to, you know, get my book a day thing, and I've been wanting to pick this up because I love anything witchy. Next book was an audiobook and it was Undercover Bromance by Alyssa K. Adams. So this is the second book to the Bromance Book Club series, which I love. So the Bromance Book Club is a group of guys who are just like the elite guys of Nashville. Like it expands later on, but it started as just like baseball players, like Major League Baseball players. They read romance novels to like basically fix their relationships and like learn things. Like the guy's mantra is like romance novels are like the universal truths and are like basically the Bibles for relationships. I forgot what they call them. The manuals, I think is what they call it. I don't know. But in Undercover Bromance, it focuses on another guy who is helping this girl bust her boss for sexually harassing women at work. And then it's like a hate to love thing. I gave this one 3 stars. I liked the first one better because it was like trying to fix a relationship, like fix a marriage instead of one blossoming, you know. Next book, Darling Rose Gold by Stephanie Roble. Okay, this one I have a reading blog about this one. It's based on a true story about this mom who had Munchausen by proxy, so she gets like pleasure from inflicting injuries and pain and illnesses on her kid just so, like, psychologically it makes her look like a good mom for taking care of her daughter, something like that. Don't quote me on that. That's what I read super quickly when I looked it up. The story's based on that, and I don't know where I ended before it cut off, but basically I was saying that her daughter has rotten teeth because her mom poisons her, and you find that out right in the beginning. So it's not a spoiler or anything, but you know, like the acid from throwing up, like it ruins your teeth. It was hard for her to find friends and be accepted by anyone, and it's just her being lonely. And then her mom gets out of prison right in the beginning, and they're like getting along, but you know, like something's off and like someone's faking something. So I was anxious for a lot of the book because I knew things were coming, they just weren't coming. And like I was waiting for the fucked up parts, but the suspense was killing me, basically, is the short way to put it. I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I read it so fast and I love the cover. Can we talk about this cover? Like, are you joking? But yeah, I liked the twists and I liked the ending, but I don't know. I think I expected a little bit more to make it a 5-star, but it was still good. The next book I read was another graphic novel just to get something done. I know it's a bad reason, but I still enjoy these books when I do that. So I read the Kite Runner graphic novel and it was so sad. The reason I picked it was because Xavier said it's one of his favorite books. It was so sad. That's all I could say about it. Like, there was so much going on and it was like super intense, and there's a lot of like family issues, abuse. There's a lot of trigger warnings for this book, so just tread with caution with that one. For those reasons, I don't think I'm gonna read the full novel. I'm good with the graphic novel because it gave me more than enough of the gist. Like, I got it. But I gave this one 4 stars. Next book I almost fell over is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. Ooh, I loved this book. I laughed so many times. I forgot which one was which, but every time I laughed I tabbed it. Then the other one was just good writing, or like relatable writing. Frederick Bachman, I read A Man Called Ove, and he just has a way with like writing such relatable sentences. He always does like blah 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 and then as if this and this. I can't think of an example, but it's so funny when he does that because it's so visual and so relatable. But anyway, there's like a bank robbery, and then this group of people gets stuck at an apartment viewing with this bank robber, and then there's a twist. It's so good. It is so good. There's just so much emotion and universal truths about humanity and life, also family and relationships. And it's just all around such a good book. I think I gave this one 5 stars. I better have. Yeah, gave it 5 stars. I got through it so fast too, and it's hilarious, like I said. Like, you will not be bored with this book. The next book I read was another graphic novel called Jane, and it was a retelling of Jane Eyre, which I didn't even know, but now I want to read Jane Eyre because this book did it for me. Like, I was so intrigued. I gave this one 5 stars too. I haven't read Jane Eyre, like I said, so I don't know what information is like commonly known, but basically Jane works for this rich dude. I don't want to spoil anything. He's hiding something and he like makes her fall in love with him, but then she finds out this thing. She takes care of his daughter and she loves this girl, so she's like really protective of her. There's like a whole secret reveal at the end. It was so good, and I loved the art style of this book, and I loved like the modernity. She's in New York, she's in this tiny ass apartment, and she's working for this dude just to, you know, get by with life. Next book I read was another graphic novel, Moonstruck. Don't remember the author for that one either. Gave this one 2 stars. Really good in the creativity sense. It had a lot of different mythical creatures, like there was a centaur who worked at a coffee shop, there was a werewolf, and then in the background there were all different creatures too. Like humans weren't the norm in this, so it was good in that sense, but like just the storyline was not, like I didn't care. There was nothing compelling about it. Like it was really childish to me. The art style was even childish. Maybe I shouldn't have read it because I'm 23 and it was probably made for like middle schoolers, but I did it anyway. I don't have much to say about this book. I thought it was gonna be like a cute, it was cute, but it wasn't. It was like, what was the point is what I said at the end. I was like, okay, we're moving on. Next book was the start of the Gilmore Girls readathon. I will link my vlogs for those down below so you could get my like full blown thoughts on these next few books. But the next book I read was 3 Things I Know Are True by Betty Cully, and it was a book in verse, and I only picked it up because it was in verse and I wanted to read it for the Gilmore Girls readathon. I know that's so bad, but I did enjoy this first book, I gave this one 3 stars. This kid Jonah, when he was I think 9 years old or something, he accidentally shot himself in the head with his friend's dad's gun. So from then on he was like paralyzed, couldn't take care of himself, so it was about the family's like struggles in dealing with that and taking care of him and making sure he's fed and everything. And then there's like the court case in the book as well. Yeah, so it was hard-hitting in that way, and it was a good read, but I didn't really like the writing. I said this in my vlog, but I think it would have been much better if it was a full-blown novel rather than in verse, because it's like such a hard-hitting tragic story that it would have benefited, I think, if it was in like full prose. The next book I read was Are You Listening by Tilly Walden, and this is another graphic novel about these 2 women. One was 18 and one was 27. Forgot their names, Lou and something. They just go on this road trip adventure thing. I gave this one 2 stars because I didn't get it. I didn't get the magic in it. There was a cat that they kept losing and finding and trying to get to West Texas, and they just found each other. They knew each other from like school or something. I don't even remember. But they just went on this road trip and I just didn't get it. The art style was okay, and there were some emotional parts where they talk about like coming out to their parents and everything, but other than that, the story was just weird to me. I don't know. On the other hand, the next book, Starfish by Kemi Dawn Bowman, gave this one 5 full stars. I absolutely adored this book. I cried a little bit. It's about this girl named Kiko who is super into art, and she has a really toxic relationship with her mom. So toxic. Kiko has a couple brothers as well, and the mom is just like, she wants other people to know that she's a good mom, but behind closed doors she's like so abusive. She doesn't support anything her kids do. She doesn't like pay attention to them. Like, she didn't even know that one of her kids was suicidal, so trigger warnings for that, trigger warnings for depression and toxic relationships with her mom. Like I said, anxiety is a huge one too. So Kiko tries to get into her dream art school, and then she travels to California with her best friend to apply to other schools just to check them out. And then there's this huge artist who like believes in her and lets her work at his studio and everything, and she just comes to certain realizations about her mom and about herself and about her potential and everything. And then there's a lot of talk about Asian stereotypes and racism towards Asians as well, so that was really good and relatable. There are some feminist topics as well. It's just so good. This book is amazing. I loved it. I tabbed the crap out of it. I love Kemi Dawn Bowman's writing. I will read all her other books. Oh, I'm almost done. I need to be almost done because I need to go. It's almost 2 o'clock. Next book I read for the Gilmore Girls Readathon is 15 Minutes of Flame. This came with my Once Upon a Book Club box. They sent me this box and it was such a good time. It comes with little gifts to like open at certain times of the book, and they like match up with like the items being spoken about in the book, and it says like open your gift. And then it was just such a good experience. I vlogged it. I'll link it down below. But this is just a cute little mass market paperback mystery set in Nantucket in the fall around Halloween, and this girl finds a skeleton in this abandoned house that her friend inherits, and then they just try to figure out where this came from, who the skeleton is, blah blah blah. And there's another murder on top of that during the investigation. I mean, it was cute. I think I gave this one 4 stars. No, gave it 3 stars. I loved the vibes. I love, you know, the fall, anything fall, and how quick it went. Like, it was just like a basic like whodunit mystery. It wasn't anything special to me. There was an unnecessary romance in my opinion. There's a guy who has the loudest car on this freaking planet that lives at my complex, and I swear to God, I can't with him. But anyways, what was I gonna say? Unnecessary romance in my opinion. It didn't do anything for the story, but I loved the items in this book. I'll have a clip of one of the items that was a spiderweb table runner, but I put it on my wall and it looks so dope. All the items in the box were so cute, and it made the story so much more fun to read. And there were some funny parts, like she went down this well. The writing in that scene was really funny. But yeah, all the characters were just kind of flat, and some of them were fillers. I don't know, but those are my thoughts on that. Next book I read was The Hand on the Wall by Maureen Johnson, the 3rd book in the Truly Devious series. I just read this to finish the series, but joke's on me because there's a 4th one coming out next year. I don't think I'm gonna continue on. I just don't care. I own the 2 books because they were gifted to me, but after the 1st book I didn't care about the mystery anymore. Characters are just, I don't know. They have good personalities, and I like reading about their passions because it's about this academy that takes gifted kids with passions about certain things, and our main character Stevie Bell is passionate about true crime, and so she's trying to solve these murder mysteries and everything, and like I just didn't care. And The Hand on the Wall, I gave it 2 stars. I just wasn't into it. I listen to it to listen to it. I listen to it while being distracted. I'm sorry. I just don't get the hype. Next book I read was Girl Interrupted by Susanna Kazin. So this I read for the Gilmore Girls Readathon as well because it's on the Rory Gilmore reading list. It's like the 300+ reading list that Rory reads in all 7 seasons. It's a whole thing and I'm trying to get through it eventually in life, but probably won't. But anyways, Girl Interrupted. So it's about this lady, Susanna Kazin. It's a memoir about her 2 years in a mental institution. She talks about like how they treated her there and what her diagnosis was and how her diagnosis changed, the people she met there, what life was like before and after and everything. So it was a really short read. It was less than 200 pages. I think it was less than. I gave it 3 stars because it was interesting learning about her life and I'm into like psychology, but it wasn't the best memoir I've ever read. We're almost done, guys, I promise. Next book, Take a Hint, Dani Brown. Gave this one 5 stars. I can't believe I didn't pick this up sooner. I bought this immediately after I finished because it was a library book and I want to tab and annotate this one because it has so many good quotes. I cried reading a quote out loud from this book in my second Gilmore Girls Readathon vlog, so check that out if you want to see me tear up a bit. This book is about Zaf and Dani. They work in the same building and they become friends because Zaf is like the security person like right when you walk in the door, and Dani's a teacher, a professor I think, and she got stuck in an elevator and then there was a fire drill and then he rescued her. He like carried her and someone took a picture because he used to be a former rugby player and he has this charity called Tackle It about advocating men's mental health to like boys to like normalize it and everything. So the picture and the trending hashtag got him like a lot of publicity for the charity, so they decided to start fake dating. Dani is very like closed off, independent, like focuses on herself, and she's like, I don't have time for relationships. I don't think I'm capable of commitment anyways. And Zaf is like, I listen to romance novels and I know I used to be a rugby player, but I am not afraid to show my vulnerabilities, talk about my mental health openly, just want to be a hopeless romantic. And it's such a good dynamic between them. I loved it. The mental health rep is definitely there. It's shining, it's relatable. Even Dani, like her closed offness and everything, I related to a lot. Not that I'm like that, but just like the things that were said around her personality. It was just beautiful. It was a beautiful story. The mental health rep was my favorite, and like the talks about what it means to be in a healthy relationship and to love in your own ways. I don't want to get emotional, so I'm gonna move on. And then the last book I read for the Gilmore Girls Readathon, but not for this wrap up. Don't you worry, there is more, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Next book is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I gave this one 5 stars. I listened to it on audio. Okay, so last year, or the beginning of this year, I don't even remember, I started reading this physically because the show just came out and I was like, okay, I want to watch a show, but I want to read the book first, and I could not get through the book. I didn't even get through like, I think more than 50 pages of the book. I read it through ebook first of all, so that might be problem number 1. Number 2, it's like written very weirdly. There's not quotation marks and everything's really blunt and telling you versus showing you. It's very like literary fiction-esque in that sense, which is the intention of the author, but it just wasn't for me. And then I watched the show, and I recommend watching the show 100% before reading the book. It just gives you so many more visuals. You could put faces to the names and you understand Marianne and Connell's relationship better and their personalities if you watch the show first. And then listen to the audiobook. Do not read it physically, in my opinion. Listen to the audiobook because the narrator has an Irish accent, so it really brings you, unless you don't like Irish accents for some reason, then read it physically. The Irish accent just brings you to Ireland with Marianne and Connell. So it's just about them dealing with life and coming of age and trigger warnings for depression, suicide, abusive relationships, abusive family members. But yeah, so Connell is like this golden boy in high school and Marianne's like the loser who just like pushes everyone away and is like rude to people, shows up late for class and doesn't care. Connell's mom works for Marianne's family. She like cleans their house. So Marianne and Connell always interact, but like in secret, and then they end up falling for each other and hooking up and stuff. And then it's just about them growing up and always finding their way back to each other, and the ending just kills me. I cried during the show. I cried listening to the book. I loved it. 5 stars. The next book, I'm not even gonna go too much into this, but it's Failing Forward by John C. Maxwell, I think was his name. I did a vlog on reading Xavier's books. Like I said in the beginning of this video, Dealio, but I read Failing Forward and it was 1 star. I just could not. It's like a self-help book from, I think it was published in 2000. It was just so outdated and redundant and the writing was awful and I rolled my eyes so many freaking times and he just repeated himself like in every chapter. I did not feel motivated whatsoever after reading this book. I was just irritated. Next book was Horrid by Katrina Leno. Gave this one 4 stars. I read it on ebook in between 2 of Xavier's books because I could not stand another business book after Failing Forward. I just needed a little break. So I read Horrid. Loved it. Loved it. It was so weird. Like, you know from the first page that she eats books. Like, physically eats books to like cope with her anxiety. And I've never read anything like that. It had so many twists and gruesome, like, it was a horror kind of, in my opinion. She and her mom moved from California to Maine to this like house that they inherited or whatever because the dad slash husband dies in the very beginning. The main character, I forgot her name, she works at a bookstore and she meets all these people and they know rumors about the house called North Manor, and so there's rumors about the family and everything, and there's like legends and stuff, and then it's just the main character figuring out all those things and getting the memo, basically hearing things in the house, things like that. It was really good. I highly recommend it. We are down to our last book, everyone. Last book was another one of Xavier's books, Onward by Howard Schultz. This one is about Starbucks. Howard Schultz is the CEO of Starbucks and it's just his journey making the business, I guess. All the ups and downs, like the financial troubles that Starbucks went through during the recession and everything, all the marketing strategies that they changed up over the years, and how Howard Schultz went from like CEO to like stepping down to stepping back up again because he wanted to, like, you know, take full control, take the reins, whatever. And it was really good. Gave it 4 stars. I enjoyed learning about Starbucks and the art of coffee making. If I were to read any business book, it was this one. So I'm glad I read it and I'm glad Xavier bought it. And it was good insight into a company I support on a regular basis. I mean, I get Starbucks like every other day. So that is my wrap up of November 2020. I read 24 books. That's wild. Thank you so much for watching. I gotta go like now. Hope you had a great day. Stay safe and stay positive always, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye!